There's a park near my apartment that stays open until midnight. It's a pretty normal place during the day. People walking their dogs, kids playing on the playground, joggers running the trails. But one night, while I was running there, I noticed another jogger who kept appearing ahead of me. At first, I thought it was just coincidence, until I realized something that still doesn't make sense. No matter which path I took, he was already there. About 3 years ago, I got into a routine of jogging at night. I worked long hours, so the only time I could really exercise was after 9 or 10 p.m. The park near my apartment was perfect for it. It had long paved trails that looped through wooded areas, small bridges over a creek, and a few open fields with lamps spaced along the paths. At night, the place was usually empty, maybe 1 or 2 people walking their dogs, sometimes another runner, but most nights it was just me. And honestly, that was part of why I liked it. The quiet, the cool air, the sound of gravel under your shoes. It was peaceful, until one particular night. It was late, probably around 10:30 p.m. The park lights were on, but the trees around the trails made most of the paths pretty dark. I had already been running for about 15 minutes when I noticed another jogger ahead of me. He was maybe 50 yards down the trail, just a dark silhouette moving under the streetlights. That wasn't unusual. Lots of people jogged there. But something about him caught my attention. He wasn't moving very fast, just a slow, steady jog. And every few seconds he would glance back over his shoulder, like he was checking behind him. I remember thinking maybe he was just making sure someone wasn't following him, which, ironically, I guess I kind of was. But after a minute, I slowed down and took a different path so I wouldn't run right up behind him. The park has several forked trails that connect back together, so I took one of those. The alternate path curves through a wooded section of the park. There are fewer lights there, mostly just darkness and the sound of wind in the trees. I ran that trail for maybe 3 minutes. When it finally connected back to the main path again, I slowed down because the same jogger was standing ahead of me, not running, standing under a lamppost, facing away from me. At first, I assumed he must have taken the same path I did and just ran faster than me, but that didn't make sense because I never saw him pass me, and there's nowhere else that path connects from. Still, I brushed it off. Coincidences happen, so I kept running and eventually passed him. When I did, I glanced over at him. He was wearing a dark hoodie, the hood pulled up, and his head tilted slightly downward. I couldn't see his face, but I remember something strange. He wasn't breathing heavily. Most runners look exhausted after running a few minutes. He looked completely still, like he hadn't been running at all. About 10 minutes later, I reached another fork in the trail. One path loops around a small lake. The other goes deeper into the wooded section of the park. Normally, I take the lake path, but that night I decided to take the forest trail instead, mostly because I wanted to avoid passing that same jogger again. So I turned down the darker trail. The lights there are farther apart. You get these long stretches where it's almost completely dark between them. And about 2 minutes into that path, I saw someone ahead of me again, jogging. Same height, same hoodie, same slow pace. My first thought was that it couldn't possibly be the same guy, because there was no way he could have gotten ahead of me again, unless he had sprinted past me in the dark, which I definitely would have noticed. But when the next lamppost lit him up, I felt this strange sinking feeling in my stomach. It was him. At that point, I started to feel a little uneasy, so I decided to test something. About halfway down the trail, there's a small side path that cuts toward a wooden bridge. Almost nobody uses it at night, so I suddenly turned and ran down that path instead. If the guy stayed on the main trail, then everything was normal. But if he somehow ended up ahead of me again, that would mean something very strange was happening. The bridge path curves through a patch of thick trees. No lights, just moonlight through the branches. I ran it pretty fast, maybe 2 minutes, and when I reached the bridge, I slowed down because someone was standing in the middle of it, facing away from me, wearing a dark hoodie. That was the moment I got the first real sense that something wasn't right, because there was no possible way he could have gotten there before me.
The bridge path only connects from the trail I just left, which meant he would have had to pass me in the darkness without making any sound and without me seeing him. But he was there, standing completely still, looking out over the creek. I stopped about 20 feet away, not sure what to do, and that's when he slowly turned his head, just slightly, like he knew I was behind him. But he didn't turn all the way around. He just stood there, watching the water.
At that moment, I noticed something else. The park lights along the trail behind me had started shutting off, one by one, which happens automatically at 11 p.m. I checked my watch, 10:58. That meant the park was about to close, and suddenly the entire place felt very different, because the park is huge, and when the lights turn off, most of it becomes completely dark. I didn't like the idea of being stuck in the woods with this guy, so I turned around and started jogging back toward the main exit. For a while, everything was quiet again, just the sound of my own shoes on the pavement, until I heard something behind me. Footsteps. Another runner. I didn't even need to turn around to know who it was. The rhythm of the steps matched mine perfectly. Slow, steady, keeping the exact same distance behind me. I ran faster. The footsteps sped up. I slowed down. They slowed down. Finally, I turned around, and the trail behind me was empty. By the time I reached the parking lot, the park lights had almost completely shut off. Only the lamps near the entrance were still on, and I remember feeling relieved, like I had finally left the woods behind. But as I walked toward my car, I noticed someone standing near the trail entrance, under the last streetlight, wearing a dark hoodie, watching the trail. The same jogger, except this time, he wasn't looking at me. He was staring into the darkness of the path I had just come from, like he was waiting for someone else. And then the last park light shut off, and for a split second, before everything went dark, I realized something that still bothers me. The security camera mounted above the trail entrance was pointing directly at us, which means if someone checked the footage later, they would only see one person standing there. Because when I looked back again, the jogger was gone, and the trail behind me was empty.
A few years ago, I worked the night shift closing a public park. Most nights it was completely quiet, just empty walking paths, dark playgrounds, and the sound of wind through the trees. But one night while I was doing my final patrol, I saw a swing moving in the playground. That wasn't unusual. The wind can do that. What bothered me was the fact that the swing stopped moving the moment I turned on my flashlight. And when I checked the security cameras later that night, someone had been sitting on that swing for hours, long before I arrived. This happened when I was working as a park maintenance worker for the city. Part of my job was closing the park every night at 10 p.m. It sounds simple, but the park was actually pretty large. There were walking trails, picnic areas, a baseball field, and a small playground near the center. My routine was always the same: drive the maintenance cart around the paths, make sure everyone had left, lock the gates, then turn off the lights in certain areas. Most nights it took about 20 minutes, and honestly, it was usually peaceful. Quiet parks at night have a strange calm to them. You can hear crickets, wind moving through the trees, sometimes distant traffic. But that night, something felt different. It was late fall, cold enough that almost nobody stayed in the park after sunset. By the time I started my closing patrol, the place was already empty. No cars in the parking lot, no people on the trails, just darkness and the sound of dry leaves blowing across the pavement. I drove the maintenance cart down the first trail, checked the picnic area, then moved toward the playground. The playground sits in a clearing surrounded by tall trees. There are a few lampposts there, but they don't light the area very well. At night, the place looks strange. The swings move slightly in the wind. The slide reflects the light in weird ways,
and the shadows from the trees stretch across the ground like long fingers. As I drove closer to the playground, I noticed one of the swings moving, back and forth, slowly. The wind had picked up that evening, so I didn't think much of it, but something about it caught my attention, because only one swing was moving. The others were completely still. Normally, when the wind hits them, they all move a little, but this one looked different, like someone had just pushed it. So I parked the cart and walked over. The swing kept moving gently, back, forward, and as I got closer, it started slowing down until it finally stopped completely.
That's when I turned on my flashlight. The beam lit up the playground. Empty swings, empty slide, empty sandbox, nothing there. But I remember something strange. The ground under that swing looked disturbed, like the dirt had been pushed around recently, almost like someone had been dragging their feet. I scanned the surrounding area with my flashlight, the trees, the benches, the trail behind the playground, but there was no one there. So I figured maybe a kid had been playing earlier and just left. I finished checking the rest of the park, locked the main gate, then drove the cart back toward the maintenance office. But the path back passes the playground again, and as I got closer, I noticed the same swing moving again. Back, forward, back, forward. This time I stopped immediately because there was almost no wind anymore. The trees were completely still, but the swing kept moving, slowly, like someone was sitting there rocking gently. I grabbed my flashlight again and walked toward the swing. The beam bounced across the ground as I moved, and when the light finally reached the swing, it stopped instantly, like something had just gotten off. The chains swayed slightly, then went still. I walked around the entire playground, checked behind the slide, behind the trees, even the bushes near the fence. Nothing. No one. But by then, the entire place felt uncomfortable, like I wasn't actually alone. When I got back to the maintenance building, I told the night supervisor what happened. He laughed and said it was probably the wind. But the park has a few security cameras, mostly pointed at the parking lot and playground. So, just out of curiosity, we decided to check the footage. The camera overlooking the playground had been recording all evening, so we rewound the footage back to around 9 p.m. That's when something strange showed up.
At first, the playground looked normal. Leaves blowing across the ground, swings moving slightly. Then, around 9:12 p.m., one of the swings started moving, back, forward, exactly the same way I had seen it earlier. But the swing wasn't empty. Someone was sitting there, a small figure, just sitting on the swing, barely moving, their head tilted slightly downward, hair covering their face. The strange part was, they never pushed the swing. It just kept moving slowly on its own. We kept watching the footage, and that's when things got even stranger. The person on the swing never left, not once. For almost an hour, they just sat there, swinging slowly, not moving their head, not looking around, just sitting. Then, at exactly 10:03 p.m., the swing suddenly stopped, and the figure was gone. No walking away, no getting up, just gone. Then the footage showed something that made my stomach drop. At 10:04 p.m., the maintenance cart drove into the camera frame. Me, arriving at the playground, walking toward the swing, exactly the moment I had seen it moving. But the swing was empty. We watched the footage again, trying to see where the person went, but the camera angle showed the entire playground. There was nowhere for them to hide. nowhere to run. And that's when I noticed one final detail. Right before the swing stopped moving, the person sitting on it lifted their head slightly, just enough for their face to turn toward the camera. And even though the image was blurry, it looked like they were staring directly at the lens, like they knew someone would be watching later.
A few years ago, my friend and I decided to walk through a park at night to save time getting home. It wasn't a small park either. It was one of those big wooded parks with miles of walking trails, the kind where once you're deep enough inside, you can't see the roads anymore. About halfway through the park, we started hearing footsteps behind us. At first, we thought it was another person walking the same path, until we stopped walking, and the footsteps stopped too. But the worst part wasn't the footsteps. It was when we finally reached the park exit and turned around, because that's when we realized whatever had been following us wasn't just one thing. This happened about 4 years ago when I was still living in a small college town. The campus was on one side of the city, and the apartment where my friend Jason and I lived was on the other side. Between them was a massive park. During the day, it was a normal place, families having picnics, people walking their dogs, students studying on benches. But at night, the place felt completely different. The park had long wooded trails that stretched through thick trees and small hills. Once the sun went down, most of the park lights didn't reach the deeper sections, which meant large parts of the park were almost completely dark. Normally, we avoided walking through it at night, but one evening we stayed late studying at the campus library. By the time we left, it was already past 11 p.m., and the only options were either a 40-minute walk around the park or a 15-minute shortcut straight through it. So we took the shortcut. The entrance to the trail looked normal enough, a paved path leading into the trees, a couple dim park lamps near the start. But after about 50 yards, the lights stopped. The rest of the trail was just darkness and moonlight. Jason had his phone flashlight on. I didn't bother using mine at first because my eyes adjusted pretty quickly. The path curved between tall trees and thick bushes. Everything was quiet. No cars, no people, just the sound of our footsteps on the pavement. For the first few minutes, it felt completely normal. We had probably walked about 5 minutes into the park when I heard something behind us. Another set of footsteps, soft, like someone stepping on gravel. At first, I didn't think much of it. It's a public park. Someone else might be walking the same trail. But the strange part was, the footsteps stayed the same distance behind us, not getting closer, not getting farther, just following. Jason heard it too. He turned slightly and shined his phone light behind us. The trail was empty, just the narrow path disappearing into the darkness.
We both stopped walking, and the footsteps stopped immediately. Jason looked at me. "Did you hear that?" I nodded. We stood there for maybe 10 seconds, listening. Nothing. Just wind in the trees. So we assumed maybe it had been an animal moving through the bushes, which happens a lot in that park. Raccoons, possums, stuff like that. So we kept walking. About 2 minutes later, the footsteps came back. Same sound. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Behind us, matching our pace exactly. Jason turned again and shined the light down the trail. Still nothing. The path was completely empty. And that's when we both started getting a little uneasy, because the trail we were on was straight. There was nowhere for someone to hide without us seeing them. We kept walking faster. The footsteps sped up too, and this time they sounded slightly different, like they weren't on the path anymore, like something was moving through the trees beside us. Branches snapping, leaves shifting, moving parallel to the trail, keeping the exact same pace as us. That's when Jason whispered something that made my stomach drop. "Dude, don't look.
but there's something moving in the trees. Of course, the first thing I did was look. The trees beside the trail were thick, mostly just dark shapes and shadows. But for a moment, I saw something. A silhouette between two trees, standing completely still, watching us. When Jason pointed his flashlight toward it, it was gone. At that point, we were both pretty nervous, so we picked up the pace, almost speed walking. The trail still had about 10 minutes left before reaching the park exit, but the entire time we walked, we could hear movement in the woods beside us, sometimes on the left, sometimes on the right, always staying parallel, always matching our speed, but never stepping onto the path.
Then something happened that made the situation much worse. The sounds multiplied. Instead of one set of movement, we started hearing several. Branches snapping in different directions, leaves rustling in multiple spots. Jason stopped walking and whispered something that made my chest feel tight. I think there's more than one. At that point, we weren't even pretending to walk normally anymore. We started jogging. The park exit lights were faintly visible in the distance, and the entire time we ran, the woods beside us sounded alive. Movement everywhere. Running, stopping, keeping pace with us, but never coming onto the trail. Like whatever it was didn't want to be seen. When we finally reached the end of the trail, we both slowed down. The park exit had bright streetlights, the kind that suddenly make everything feel safe again. We stepped out onto the sidewalk and stopped, both of us breathing heavily. For a few seconds, we just stood there, relieved to be out of the woods. Then Jason did something I wish he hadn't. He turned around and looked back into the park. I followed his gaze. The trail behind us was dark again, just the faint outline of trees. But now that we were standing under the streetlights, our eyes could see deeper into the woods. And that's when I noticed them. Shapes standing between the trees, several of them perfectly still, watching us from the darkness. Too tall to be animals, too thin to be trees, just silhouettes standing there, silent, not moving, like they had been waiting the entire time. And the moment we stepped fully out of the park, they slowly disappeared back into the trees.